Hello there everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's Amiibo here, and today we're doing another Nintendo Switch 2 game unboxing and handheld gameplay, plus early impressions video, this time for Rune Factory Guardians of Azuma Nintendo Switch 2 Edition. So this is our first Nintendo Switch 2 Edition we're opening up. I'm excited to pop this into my Switch 2 and start playing it, but also try putting it into a Switch 1. Apparently, with these Switch 2 Edition games, they do have the Switch 1 version on there. So we're going to be trying that as well. Of course, if you are new here and you enjoy Nintendo Switch 2 unboxings and coverage like this, I would appreciate you liking the video and subscribing. Let's get into it. Okay, people, we are back with another one. I took a little nap, just posted the Street Fighter 6 unboxing and handheld gameplay, so check out that video. But I wanted to go to Rune Factory. Now, I do want to give a huge shout out to Marvelous. They actually sent me a review code for the Switch 1 version. I have not had time to play it since they sent it to me a couple of days ago. However, I'm excited to hop in to the Switch 2 version here. I already had it pre-ordered. I was going to keep it for the physical collection anyway, but I wanted to give a huge shout out to them for that. But yeah, here we have our first Nintendo Switch 2 Edition game that we're opening up on the channel. Not too different other than that, of course, with the logo. They have their own little Switch 2 Edition banner there, but also on the bottom here, it says includes the Nintendo Switch game and the Nintendo Switch 2 Edition upgrade pack. Upgrade pack also available separately. For details, visit that URL. So this is a little interesting because you can actually put it into a Switch 1. We're going to put it into my OLED. It's going to be weird picking that thing up again. Here we have the spine for this game. I think out of everything I have, this might be the only one. I think this might be the only one that's just black text on a white background, to be honest. It's fine, you know, nothing too wrong with that for the spine here. Here we have the back of the game. It says, enter the eastern lands of Azuma, experience Rune Factory reimagined. The celestial collapse has shattered Azuma and halted the power of runes. Now the gods of nature have vanished, leaving crumbling mountains of withering fields and the people with nothing, not even hope. Make a home and life in 4 seasonal villages as you travel the land on a grand adventure. Design and develop villages and use Earth Dancer powers to restore humanity. So I don't have too much experience with Rune Factory. I've played I played a decent amount-ish, I guess, of Rune Factory 4 on 3DS back in the day, but that was when I was like 13 or whatever, so I really don't remember too much. Of course, I loved Harvest Moon back in the day, and, you know, that's now Story of Seasons, and this was kind of a spin-off of that, but this is a more action RPG take on a Harvest Moon or a Story of Seasons game, but you still have all those farming elements, just also it's an action RPG, which I'm really excited to try out. This is also one that has mouse controls, so I don't know if it says that on the back. Yeah, it doesn't mention mouse controls on the back, but it does when you're in your village crafting or whatever. I'm pretty sure there's mouse controls for this. But without further ado, let's go ahead and crack this bad boy open. Now, someone did reply to me on Twitter this morning saying that apparently, despite all of the hype, this game actually requires a download. Or, sorry, I shouldn't say it requires a download. Apparently, it has a download, like a 12 gig download, which is interesting because, I mean, that would mean that the game probably runs fine without the download, but I wonder if it's a 12 gig update, all these months of Marvelous like hyping up like, okay, yeah, the game's on the cartridge, there's, you know, you don't need to download anything, and then there's a 12 gig day one patch. That is a little funny, I gotta be honest. But here we have it all opened up and out of the plastic. Let's go ahead and crack her open. There should be some goodies in here. I'm expecting something from Marvelous since they've been talking such a big game about physical stuff. Okay, so we do have a manual. Special reports on Azuma, top secrets, property of Seed HQ. Let's go ahead and pop that open. So this is a little manual here. Oh, sick. It's actually just a full manual. Awesome. Wow, I'm really happy. It's been so long since I just like got a non-limited run game or something like that that does have a full manual here. So just kind of flipping through it. Don't need to go over everything here. But yeah, if you want a Switch 2 physical game, here's one that actually comes with a booklet and a manual, and that's pretty neat. There's a little calendar in there with all of the birthdays for all the characters. That's actually pretty useful. That's kind of nice. I imagine if I was like, you know, younger, before the internet was at least common in my household, just using this to keep track of everybody's birthdays. I'm sure, yeah, there's romances in this game, right? So, yeah, very cool. You got your notes in the back. Cool to see Marvelous doing that, and I hope that is a standard for all of their Switch 2 releases. Here we have the cartridge itself. That is one red cartridge, I tell you what, because the label is also red behind the text here. And then, of course, we also have the back of the cartridge as well. Okay, so I'm actually pretty excited to do this. Like I said, someone on social media was saying there's a download for this game, 12 gig day one update, so we will see if that is true here. There is. That's really funny. After all the talk about like Marvelous and how their games are complete on cartridge and everything, do you need this update? Probably not. But I'm curious to see what like the testing will be for this without it. I mean, I can start it without without actually getting the download finished. So the game works. I just wonder, what is that 12 gig download doing? I'm a little skeptical of that there. Okay, like I said, I also want to try out putting it into the Switch 1 just to see, I mean, if it's any different. I can't imagine it is. Here's my Fantasy Life cartridge. That's funny. That's so funny. Fantasy Life being replaced by Rune Factory. However, I'm putting a Switch 2 cartridge into a Switch 1. And as you can see, there it is. You just have the Switch 1 version running right there. That is awesome. That's actually really cool, and it'll apply to the first-party games as well, like the Zelda games. Should apply to Metroid Prime 4 and Pokemon later this year. I don't know necessarily how useful that actually is, but it is pretty cool to have the option. If you want to play the Switch 1 version, you still have your Switch 1. You can pop in a Switch 2 cartridge and play it that way. Pretty neat. With that said, I'm going to go play this game for about an hour or two, come back with some more handheld gameplay and early impressions of Rune Factory on the Switch 2. See you in just a second. Okay, so first things first, I wanted to show off some of the mouse controls in this game. I played it for about an hour now, which is, in the grand scheme of things, not much of this game. However, I think it's enough to give some very early impressions and, once again, show off those mouse controls. So, the mouse mode in Rune Factory Guardians of Azuma is for your little farm area that you have, and basically, you have this top-down view where you could use your right Joy-Con mouse to just use a cursor and slide around and place objects down and put crops in and water them, that kind of thing. It's actually really nice, and what I like is how seamless it is, and this, I think, goes for a lot of mouse mode games on Switch 2, but you can be running around, you can do this all in third person, playing as the actual character, and you just press the A button, but if you just put the Joy-Con down on the table like I am here, the game intuitively knows that, okay, they're doing mouse mode right now, let's go ahead and switch to this overhead view. So a nice little mouse mode addition to Rune Factory Guardians of Azuma. Not necessarily a deal breaker, I mean, the game plays just fine without it, but it's always nice to have these options when it comes to controls, especially now that the Switch 2 does have so many different options for how you can play a game. I'm hoping in the future we see more of these cozy type games slash, farming games, that kind of thing. We'll see more of these with mouse cursor supports in the future on the platform. As for the game itself, it runs really nice in handheld. I've done a few of these videos now. I've tried a couple games on Switch 2, and the novelty of games running at 60 FPS in handheld on a Nintendo console with this beautiful display, it's not wearing off on me yet. Because I know this is a game that on Switch 1, it probably would have had some frame rate issues, but it's running very nice on the Switch 2. It took a little bit to get going, a lot of tutorial slash just story stuff in the beginning, but once you get to that first area, the core gameplay loop of Rune Factory really started to reveal itself to me, and I'm excited to play more. So basically, you can play as either a guy or a girl character, both of which are voiced. I actually really like that. I don't love when you play as a nameless character. I mean, you can name this person whatever you want, but they still have a voice. I don't like when protagonists don't have voices in games, to be honest. Like, it is actually a character. The default for the girl was Kaguya. That's who I decided to play as. Basically, you're saving this village from some blight, dragon, doom stuff. And you have these musical instruments that you can use to grow crops, but also heal allies. But then, of course, you're also using a sword, and you have a bow and arrow, and you're attacking enemies. There's going to be other weapon classes. There's a skill tree. Coming off of Fantasy Life last week, I think I'm going to really like this. I haven't really played many games like this in recent years. Certainly on 3DS I played more. So it's kind of a nice change of pace. Fantasy Life into this. This is a much more like story-focused game than Fantasy Life. Fantasy Life has a story, but that one, I wasn't super into it. Kind of felt like a tutorial for the online and the, open world section. With this, I'm already getting kind of invested in the characters and the plot, and I, actually want to see more of what's going on. But also when you leave your village, you have all these enemies spawning. You're doing fun, pretty basic attack combos, at least in the early game, and then you're mining ore while you walk around, you're gathering resources, and I can just imagine this being a very fun gameplay loop for, I mean, probably quite a while. I'm not sure how long the story mode in this game is, but this is one that I think I'll really enjoy playing, especially like while listening to podcasts and stuff. You all know me, I love a good game that I can put on and play while listening to a podcast, or maybe watching reruns of a show or something that you can do in addition to another thing. And Rune Factory, except for when there's story happening, I think that's going to be the perfect fit for me. The combat so far, I mean, once again, this is very early on, so it's pretty basic, just Y combo with a short sword. I did just unlock a bow and arrow. It didn't seem like there was gyro controls. I was looking in the settings, don't love that. They need to add gyro controls for aiming with the bow and arrow, but there is a perfect dodge, and I love me a good perfect dodge, especially after playing so much Clair Obscur last month, just kind of in tune with that. I will say the level 3 Oni enemies were like really stupid. Like I was just standing there waiting for them to attack me so I could try out the perfect dodge, and they just were not attacking me. But overall, the game seems pretty fun so far. I'm excited to play more. This is one I will likely do a full review for later in the month, so definitely stay tuned for that for some more fleshed out thoughts on Rune Factory Guardians of Azuma. Of course, as always, let me know your thoughts on Rune Factory Guardians of Azuma in the comments down below. If you're playing it on Switch 2, what do you think of the Switch 2 version? Maybe you have it on Switch 1. Maybe you're even playing it on Steam. I did see it recently got rated for, I think PS5 by ESRB, or, you know, one of those classification websites. So it looks like this will be coming to PlayStation eventually, and I'll be curious to compare that version to this. But that is going to do it for today's video. Subscribe here for more Nintendo Switch 2 unboxings and gameplay. Follow me on Twitter at BoTalksGames. Check out my other Nintendo news channel at BoTalksGames as well. And you could click on one of the 2 videos on screen right now to listen to me ramble about even more Nintendo Switch 2 stuff. Until next time, folks. Peace.